Ever imagine like a plate of ceviche? You know, that fresh, tangy kind of staple in so many Latin American cultures? It's more than just a delicious meal, though, right? It represents like this deep connection to the ocean that really defines this region. Welcome to Xul Podcast, Shooting the Reality. I'm James Caro.
And I'm Emily Laura.
And today we are diving deep into this fascinating report from the UN Conference on Trade and Development. It's all about Blue Biotrade and that complex relationship between people and the sea in Latin America and the Caribbean.
You know, it's interesting because we often talk about the Amazon when we think about Latin America.
Right.
But the ocean plays this equally vital role. It shapes not just the landscape, but also the lives and livelihoods of millions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This report really drives that point home. It emphasizes how crucial healthy marine ecosystems are for everything, from economic development to food security, especially as the region faces the challenges of growing populations and climate change.
It's not just about pretty beaches and abundant seafood. We're talking about this complex web of ecosystem services that often go unnoticed. Things like carbon sequestration, coastal protection, and even cultural heritage.
Yeah. The report dives into some pretty eye-opening figures about the economic value of fishing, too. Did you know that back in 2013, global fishery exports hit a record high of U.S. $136 billion?
That's a staggering number. And Latin America and the Caribbean play a significant role in that global market. The report states that between 2000 and 2012, the region contributed somewhere between 6.6% and 11.7% of the global volume of fishery products. That's not a small slice of the pie.
Not at all. And in 2011 alone, the value of fishery exports from the region reached around U.S. $14.5 billion. But I'm curious, does this wealth actually trickle down to those coastal communities who depend on fishing for their livelihoods?
That's a great question, and it's something the report really delves into. While some countries like Chile and Peru are major players in the global market, there's significant variation across the region. For many smaller developing nations, the economic benefits of fishing are not as evenly distributed, and many communities still face poverty and struggle to compete with larger commercial operations.
So it's not just about the overall economic contribution. It's about understanding how that wealth is distributed and who benefits the most. The report also highlights the social and cultural significance of fishing, right? It's not just an industry. It's deeply ingrained in the fabric of these societies.
Absolutely. Imagine a world without ceviche or moqueca, that traditional Brazilian fish stew. For many coastal and island nations, fish is a primary source of protein, essential micronutrients, and a cornerstone of their cultural identity. It's not just a source of income, it's a way of life.
Yeah, it's fascinating how like a simple plate of seafood can carry so much cultural weight. But sadly, there's this shadow looming over this kind of idyllic picture, and that's the threat of unsustainable fishing practices. This report doesn't shy away from those tough realities.
No, it doesn't. One of the biggest issues highlighted is illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, or IUU fishing for short. Imagine a free-for-all in the ocean with no rules or oversight. That's essentially what IUU fishing is, and it's decimating fish populations and undermining the livelihoods of those who depend on them.
It's a classic tragedy of the common scenario, and it seems like developing countries in the region often bear the brunt of these challenges. They often lack the resources to effectively monitor and enforce regulations, especially in vast offshore areas.
Exactly. Imagine trying to patrol an area the size of a small country with limited boats, outdated technology, and a shoestring budget. It's a monumental task. The report also points to the tension between large-scale commercial fishing operations and small-scale artisanal or subsistence fisheries.
It's a David and Goliath situation, isn't it? You have these massive industrial fishing fleets with sophisticated gear competing for resources with small-scale fishers who are often just trying to put food on the table for their families. It's a recipe for conflict.
And unfortunately, the environment often gets caught in the crossfire. We're talking about habitat destruction, pollution from aquaculture operations, and the depletion of fish stocks that can cascade through the entire ecosystem. The report mentions the alarming rate at which mangrove forests are being cleared for shrimp ponds. These forests are essential nurseries for many fish species, so destroying them has this ripple effect throughout the entire marine ecosystem.
It's a classic example of short-sightedness, sacrificing long-term ecological health for immediate economic gain.
And that's where the concept of blue biotrade comes in. It's not about saying no to fishing altogether. It's about finding a sustainable balance, a way to harness the economic potential of the ocean while safeguarding its long-term health and ensuring that the benefits are shared equitably.
Blue Biotrade. It's a term we'll be hearing a lot more about, I suspect.
It's time to explore some potential solutions to the challenges facing Latin America and the Caribbean's fishing industry.
Okay, I'm ready to hear some good news. The first part of our deep dive painted a pretty bleak picture.
Well, there's definitely cause for concern, but this UNCTAD report isn't all doom and gloom. It highlights a growing movement towards sustainable practices and offers some pretty concrete solutions.
Like this idea of blue biotrade.
Right.
It's a term we touched on earlier, but let's unpack it a bit more. What exactly does it entail?
It's about recognizing that healthy oceans are the foundation of a thriving blue economy. It's about moving beyond that traditional model of simply extracting resources and embracing a more holistic approach that prioritizes conservation innovation and equitable benefit sharing.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where economic development and environmental protection go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But how do we actually get there? What are some of the practical steps that countries in this region can take to embrace this blue biotrade vision?
Well, the report outlines a multifaceted approach. One key area is improving management practices. Imagine a system where catch limits are based on scientific data. Enforcement agencies have the resources to crack down on illegal fishing, and marine protected areas are strategically placed to safeguard those critical habitats.
It sounds like a well-oiled machine. But the reality is that many developing countries in the region struggle with even the most basic aspects of fisheries management. They lack the funding, the technology, and sometimes even the political will to implement these measures effectively.
That's where capacity building and technical assistance come into play. Imagine a network of experts and organizations working together to provide training, share best practices, and help these countries develop the tools they need to manage their fisheries sustainably. The report emphasizes the importance of international collaboration and knowledge sharing in addressing these shared challenges.
It sounds like a tall order, but I suppose even small steps in the right direction can make a difference. What about the economic side of things? How can we ensure that fishing continues to provide livelihoods and support those local economies while also protecting the environment?
One solution the report highlights is shifting from a focus on low-value fish products to high-value applications. Currently, a large portion of the fish caught in this region ends up as fish meal, which is primarily used for animal feed.
So we're talking about turning fish into food for other animals instead of utilizing its full potential for human consumption.
Exactly. It's a bit like using a prime cut of steak to make dog food. There's a missed opportunity there. The report suggests that by promoting high-value products such as gourmet seafood pharmaceuticals derived from marine organisms or even cosmetics made from seaweed extracts, we can increase the economic value of the catch while reducing pressure on fish stocks.
So it's about adding value, innovating, and diversifying the industry.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But what about those small-scale fishers, the ones who are often most vulnerable to the impacts of overfishing and environmental degradation? How does blue biotrade benefit them?
That's a crucial point. Blue Biotrade isn't just about big businesses and fancy products. It's about empowering local communities and ensuring that they have a voice in those decision-making processes. Imagine a scenario where small-scale fishers are supported to adopt sustainable practices, gain access to new markets, and even benefit from ecotourism ventures that showcase the beauty and biodiversity of their local ecosystems.
So it's about creating a more inclusive and equitable fishing industry, one where the benefits are shared more fairly among all stakeholders. The report also talks about the importance of consumer awareness. Right. We as consumers have a role to play in driving demand for sustainable seafood.
Absolutely. Every time we buy a piece of fish, we're making a choice that can impact the health of the oceans. Imagine a world where consumers are armed with information and can confidently choose seafood that has been caught or farmed in a way that minimizes environmental impact.
It's about looking beyond price and considering the story behind our food. But how can we as consumers know which choices are truly sustainable? It's a confusing landscape out there with so many different labels and certifications.
That's a valid point. The report highlights the role of certification programs like the Marine Stewardship Council, or MSC, in providing a trusted benchmark for sustainability. The MSC label on a product indicates that it comes from a fishery that has met rigorous standards for responsible fishing practices.
So it's a way for consumers to vote with their wallets, to support those businesses that are committed to sustainability. Are there any other tools or resources available to help us navigate the world of sustainable seafood?
There are several. There are smartphone apps that allow you to scan barcodes and get information about the origin and sustainability of your seafood. There are online guides and resources that provide ratings and recommendations. And there are even organizations that work directly with chefs and restaurants to promote sustainable seafood choices. The information is out there. It's just a matter of taking the time to seek it out.
Knowledge is power, as they say. But even with all these solutions and initiatives in place, the challenges facing Latin America and the Caribbean's oceans are still immense. What gives you hope that we can actually turn the tide and create a truly sustainable future for this region's fisheries?
What gives me hope is that growing recognition that we are all connected to the ocean, whether we live on the coast or hundreds of miles inland. There's a growing awareness that the health of our planet, our economies, and our well-being is inextricably linked to the health of our oceans.
It's a powerful realization, and it's one that is driving a wave of innovation, collaboration, and commitment to change. From small-scale fishers embracing sustainable practices, to scientists developing cutting-edge technologies, to consumers demanding transparency and accountability, there's a collective effort underway to protect our oceans.
And that's what makes me optimistic. It's not just a top-down approach or a bottom-up movement. It's a groundswell of action from all sectors of society working together to create a more sustainable and equitable future for all.
It's inspiring to see that even in the face of daunting challenges, there's a spirit of hope and a determination to find solutions. But we're not done yet.
And we confronted those environmental and social challenges, really emphasizing that urgent need for a change in our approach.
And that's what we're celebrating today. The UNCTAD report doesn't just highlight the problems, it shines a light on those real-world solutions that are already making a difference.
Let's start with that growing movement towards certification programs. These programs, like the Marine Stewardship Council or MSC, empower consumers to make informed choices.
Right, that little blue fish label we see on some seafood products. Can you remind us how that works?
Think of it as a badge of honor for sustainable fishing. The MSC sets a high bar for responsible practices, from minimizing bycatch to protecting marine habitats.
So when a fishery earns that MSC certification, it's a signal to consumers that the seafood they're buying comes from a source committed to sustainability.
Exactly, and that consumer demand can be a powerful driver of change. The report actually points to the rapid growth of the certified seafood market in Latin America, a clear sign that both businesses and consumers are embracing this shift.
It's heartening to see that kind of positive momentum. Now let's talk about those marine protected areas, or MPAs, those underwater havens that play a vital role in protecting biodiversity and replenishing fish stocks.
Imagine this bustling underwater city teeming with life, safe from the pressures of fishing. That's the essence of an MPA. These areas are carefully chosen to safeguard crucial habitats like spawning grounds and coral reefs.
The report showcases the success story of the Galapagos Marine Reserve in Ecuador, a world-renowned example of how MPAs can balance conservation with the needs of local communities.
The Galapagos is a shining example, but there are many other successful MPAs throughout the region, demonstrating that conservation and sustainable development can go hand in hand.
It's not just about protecting marine life either, right? Well-managed MPAs can also create opportunities for ecotourism, bringing economic benefits to those coastal communities.
Absolutely. Think about diving tours, snorkeling excursions, and wildlife watching expeditions, all contributing to a sustainable source of income for those who rely on the ocean.
It's that win-win scenario we keep coming back to. Protecting the environment while also creating economic opportunities.
And beyond these large-scale initiatives, the report highlights the ingenuity of individuals and communities finding innovative ways to reduce waste and maximize the value of the ocean's bounty.
We talked about the Iceland Ocean Cluster turning fish waste into valuable products. Are there similar examples happening in Latin America?
Absolutely. There are initiatives using fish skins to create leather, fish bones for fertilizer, and even fish scales for bioplastics. It's about looking at what was once considered waste and seeing its potential.
It's about resourcefulness, creativity, and a deep respect for the ocean's gifts.
And speaking of innovation, there's a growing buzz around seaweed farming as a sustainable alternative to traditional aquaculture.
Seaweed. What's so special about seaweed?
Seaweed is like a superhero of sustainability. It's incredibly versatile, used for food cosmetics, fertilizers, even biofuels. It requires minimal resources to grow, has a low environmental impact, and can even help combat climate change by absorbing carbon dioxide.
It sounds like seaweed could be a game changer, especially for coastal communities seeking to diversify their income and enhance food security.
It certainly has that potential. And the beauty of it is that it aligns perfectly with this concept of Blue Biotrade, harnessing the power of the ocean for economic and social good while ensuring its long-term health.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive, from the alarming challenges to those inspiring stories of hope and innovation.
It's clear that creating a sustainable future for Latin America and the Caribbean's fisheries will require a collective effort, a commitment from governments, businesses, communities, and individuals alike.
And that's what makes this topic so compelling. It's a call to action for all of us to rethink our relationship with the ocean and recognize that our choices, both big and small, have a ripple effect.
It's about understanding that the health of our planet and our own well-being are deeply intertwined with the health of our oceans.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a sense of empowerment, a reminder that each of us has a role to play in creating a more sustainable future.
Whether it's choosing certified seafood supporting organizations working to protect our oceans, or simply spreading awareness about the importance of marine conservation, every action counts.
We've only scratched the surface of this vast and fascinating topic, but we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to learn more.
And if you want to delve deeper into the world of Blue Biotrade and the solutions outlined in this UNCTAD report, be sure to check out the link in our show notes.
Thanks for joining us on this journey of exploration, and remember, the future of our oceans is in our hands.
Be sure to subscribe and let us know your thoughts on this episode. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, keep shooting that reality.